Welcome to the What Could Go Right podcast. I am Eric Orton. Last week we shared the conversation that Emily and I had with York and Jayne Young. They are parents of 4 adult kids. They share their journey through major shifts and pivots in their marriage, money, and lifestyle. If you haven't already listened to the first half of the conversation, go back and listen. It's the previous episode, and these guys are honest, they're vulnerable and insightful about what it can look like to transform your lives, marriage and family in positive ways with adult kids and with a healthy dose of adventure thrown in. So this is part 2 with York and Jayne Young.
I remember being down here in Costa Rica, and we had made friends with some other Americans that were on the flight, and they insisted on having dinner, and he asked that. And the real standout thing that I still have from that is that I learned from Camino, I can do anything.
That's powerful, York. You can do anything.
Yeah, you can't do everything. You cannot do everything, but you can do anything. I also learned how hard it is for me, and I think there might be a few other males on the planet, to express my feelings. But because of Camino's long, dry, hot hours, I got many retries to answer Jayne's questions and express myself genuinely instead of in a way that was, being a good person or being a good husband. And that's really what she wanted. Who the hell are you? What's going on in there? Not right answers.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted candor, not canned responses.
Yeah. And I would say I want to go back to something you said too. We were really tight and really close up until this moment. It was just, there was a chance, and I think that God sought a chance for us to be even closer. And what that required was for some real breakings open, especially on my part. I think Jayne already had a lot of maturity, and I think women intrinsically often do have more ability to express how they're feeling. But in my culture, or maybe, I had not realized the importance of that, the significance of that, to know myself and to really be a fully open, close, genuine, authentic partner to Jayne. And so that was a huge epiphany and learning from Camino for me. It's just that, being able to just say, I am angry, I am sad, I am jealous, I am afraid, and saying those things around really tricky things to my lover when she's not feeling something's right, or feeling a misalignment. That's what we often call it. I feel misaligned here.
Well, I think one of the beauties of what you're describing, York, and Jayne, I want to hear your thoughts as well, is that you said you were actually fairly close before this experience, and you're saying, but you had the potential to become even closer, more unified. And it reminds me of something my playwriting professor said when I was young. He said, a really good playwright will take you can take your play and it's working fine and it's working okay, and break it apart and rewrite it because you know it can be better. And as soon as you start to disassemble a play, it breaks apart really fast. But just saying, hey, I know that this is good, but I know that it can be better. And the only way to make it better is to kind of start breaking things a little bit.
I'm like so validated right now as someone who loves to rewrite good stuff.
Oh, that's one of the things that we
that's one of the things that we struggle with in how we work differently. But I also love that you said things were.
So can I speak to this, Eric, though? Because
please do.
I think that's exactly what God did with our marriage.
Yeah.
Just to be crystal clear.
And going back to this theme, it is one thing to say that. Oh, let's just break apart a perfectly fine marriage that's working fine. Let's break it apart a little. And it's an entirely other thing to actually go through it.
Yeah.
And to live through it, and to do it, and to do the work that is going to be asked of you to keep it together.
So talk to us, Jayne, a little bit about your experience on the flip side of York saying things in some cases for the first time, or in a new way for the first time, and you're on the other side of that conversation. Can you just share a little bit about what that 500 miles looked like or felt like for you, was like from your perspective?
So I feel like you're asking two different questions, because there's one, like, what's the experience of hearing York share some things, and then what was the experience of hearing them on Camino? Because I did hear some, it didn't all happen on Camino.
Okay. Yeah, feel free, however you want to, like, cover that.
Yeah, I mean, some things I learned on Camino, and I would say fundamentally very helpful. Simple answer to the question. Very helpful to hear York be honest and transparent. And we both learned from that experience that that is really one of the keys, or if not the key, to a really thriving, vibrant relationship, is just raw honesty, even if that's going to hurt the person a little. I think we both learned that.
Mm.
But fundamentally, the whole experience was terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely ungrounding and destabilizing. Like, going back to our house in New Hampshire that was so perfect, and exactly how we wanted it, and we thought it was going to be where we lived forever, and it was working just fine. And then to have something come and disrupt what I thought was going to work just fine, and what I thought was going to last and be that way for the rest of our lives, and that would be fine with me. To have such a huge disruption to that way of how things were, specifically between me and York, was really scary, because I didn't know how it was going to end.
Yeah.
That does take a lot of bravery. And you're right. I think it's one thing to say it, but it's quite another to live through it, for sure.
Well, and yeah, when you don't know that there's a happy ending and you're not sure if it's worth the risk.
Yeah, I think both of us weren't totally sure how it was going to end. And that was really scary and heartbreaking. Because, again, something that was working fine for a long time, we're talking 25 plus years, and then suddenly it's not working, and then it's going to work in a different way. It takes a lot of work to reassemble it without losing your cool or your nerve.
Yeah.
Because the tendency in those moments, and I think this is for every couple relationship, is you want to bolt.
Yeah.
You just want to bolt.
It's so uncomfortable. You just want to get into a more comfortable.
Yes. Especially when it was so comfortable before, and suddenly it's not comfortable. It's like, I just want comfort. Where's the comfort? Is it outside of this?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question I have for you, and this is the last one that I have, and maybe you have some others, Emily. So this was, over the course of the past decade, whether it's the yoga studio or hiking El Camino, or your kids launching out into the world, and you have grandkids. Remind me how many grandkids you have?
We have 4.
Oh, I was at 3.
Amazing.
4. Yeah.
So if you now, the 2023 version of yourselves were to go back and talk to the 2013 versions of yourself, I'd love to hear from each of you on this. What advice would you give to the former you, or the former, each of you? What would you, York, what would you say to the former you, and to the former Jayne, and Jayne, you, to the, anyway.
What advice would you give your past self? Is that it?
Thank you. Emily is the concise one tonight.
You wanna go first? No.
Sure, I'll jump in. Okay, so something came to York about York. And I've never been asked this question of what advice I would give to York. I'm always wanting to give advice to York, and no one ever asks me that. So awesome.
He never wanted your advice before? What?
Not often. But this is safe because it's in 2013. So
right.
This isn't him. So I would say, you go, boy. Like, you're just trust yourself, and use your courage, and go for what you want, and everything's going to be okay. that's what I would tell York.
And what would you, that's
I
beautiful.
think that's what everybody wants to hear.
Yeah. And what would you tell yourself, Jayne?
Myself, that life is going to be so much better than you can even imagine. Like that you can even imagine. And that there are going to be some bumpy times, but just hang on and trust the process and get excited.
Get excited.
Wow.
I love that. Okay. We're going to hand the talking stick to you, York.
Yeah, I think I would probably just say to both of us, keep talking, keep walking. It's going to be okay. It's going to work out. Just don't give up. Yeah, everything's going to be ridiculously okay.
Boom.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay.
Good
So,
with that.
when your book comes out, when, York?
That is tricky to answer. It is in the finishing touches of production, if you will, for print and ebook.
Nice.
I'm toying with the idea of doing the narration myself. And
Love
I
it.
can't do that on the road here. I have to do that from my high-tech sound studio called my closet.
Like a true pro. That's how we do it.
So many people have said, I'll read your book if you'll put it on audio, that I'm, despite my coach's advice, tempted to wait releasing it in print form until both audio and print are ready. So there's a long-winded answer for, I don't know exactly.
But
People-
it's coming.
People are gonna have to wait
yeah,
just a little
Well,
bit.
hey, we'll have a link in the show notes whenever it comes out so people can find it.
Yeah,
well,
but if you want to hear York read it himself.
Yeah,
And
I think
I was just going to say, we've learned the same thing as authors, that even myself, now that we no longer live in New York City, I consume books much more through listening than reading. And in fact, my latest book, we've only released it as an audiobook because
That's what we heard, so we thought we'd toy around
we're
with
just
the idea
trying
of
that out. So I
people
think
listening.
you're going down a good path, in my opinion. Not that you're asking for my advice, but
Yeah,
no.
I actually do have one more question.
I thought
What is that buzzing sound on our end? But
I think it's the nightlife in Costa Rica.
Yeah, it could
It
be.
sounds like cicadas.
Yeah, no, it sounds like cicadas.
okay.
And then I actually have another question. I thought of
Oh,
one,
okay.
so-
Well,
so
we
keep
just
going.
never want to stop talking to you guys, so that's obvious. But I guess I'm curious about how this transformation has affected your kids. If they've seen something different in you, if you feel like you're setting an example for them in any way, or just like how does it affect those relationships, either how they feel towards you or how you're feeling about them?
In fact, before you answer that, I want to jump in with an observation, because I remember sitting in your home and one of your kids, or you told us, I think, that one of your kids said, as you were going through the thralls of launching and ramping up soul power yoga, that you said, you guys make marriage look terrible.
What? Okay. So yeah. So let's talk about, so from where you are now, yeah. How is this, playing out with the kids, the adult kids, right?
Well, adulting is resisted by the rising generations, but yes, headed towards adulting. Some of them adults. And Jayne, you probably have a better feel for this.
Yeah, I wish I could say that we are totally inspiring them to live a very brave, exciting life. And honestly, what I get more of is, you're going to die, or you guys are kind of crazy. And why can't you just live a normal life and be here all the time for us? So,
Yes, cooking us Sunday dinners and babysitting our children.
Okay.
So that's what I hear, but I do have a secret hope that we are modeling a really fun, exciting way to live life, especially at this second half of our life. where there is more freedom and more opportunities for us. So I don't know if that's true, but I hope that that's true.
Well, we know in parenting that it is a long game, and sometimes you wait for a decade or so before you find out. And I think I would bet on you guys that the kids right now, you know, your kids, these adult kids, just becoming a grown up, just taking on like paying your rent,
First
getting
jobs,
school,
first
getting
children.
a mortgage, trying to raise these little people, handling, you know, uniting your life with another person in marriage is feels like such a huge adventure, just like learning how to drive. And at a certain point, you aren't thinking about all those emotions anymore. And that's when you come and say, like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Am I happy with the direction things are going? And they will, if they come to that point, definitely have a model in you for knowing, like, we're capable of reinventing this if we want to.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
Okay, so here's my other question, and I want to come back to kind of this very recent landmark. You sold your business within the past month, right?
Yes.
How does that feel? And and you told me kind of a little
I
bit.
wish we could see your faces right now.
I know. I'm looking.
No, it's okay. So I want to know how it feels, and where you're at as you kind of weigh and consider what's next. Because I know you haven't decided on anything, but I'm just curious your process as you figure that out. So for now, you've sold your business, you signed off on it just a few weeks ago, and then you jumped on planes on a plane to Costa Rica.
Yeah, I'll speak first and then.
No, I think
Let
Jayne
me
is really
share.
the person to answer this entirely. But yeah, I'll share it. I think.
Yeah, and I would say the reason for that is because it just impacts me more.
Yeah,
It was
very
more
much
a
so.
part of my daily life.
And it creates space for you to pursue something new more than I've got my little book dream and my professor dream, and I'm full. I'm booked. So Jayne's the best person to answer this.
All right, go for it, Jayne.
So, yeah, the initial experience of having sold the business was not what I expected. I was hoping and expecting that it would be very celebratory, an immediate feeling of like weight and then freedom, and like almost digital of, you know, working, carrying the weight of running a business, and then it's not mine, and then it's totally off, and I'm a new person. And that wasn't
Kind of like an all or nothing thing.
Yeah, it was more like marriage. Like it's just a process, and you kind of adjust to it eventually. That's been my experience of slowly kind of pulling back emotionally from it, and then there was some sadness of feeling a loss of what I was doing, and something that we created and that I loved was not a part of my life anymore. And now, so that's all been a process of a few weeks. And now I stand at a really exciting threshold of a lot of possibility, and with a lot of experience under my belt, and a lot of experiences that tell me, just like what York learned on Camino, is I really can do anything. And the aperture is very wide of what I can do. I just need to decide. So I'm in that space now, and I find it very exciting to not know.
Oh, I like that. It's exciting not to know. And in coming around this circle again, it sounds a lot like in the first place when your kids started moving out, and that thing that you had been so invested in, and probably had that similar kind of transition of, you know, the letting go and the not being as involved or involved in different ways with your kids, but then having this increasing bandwidth and at that threshold. And here you are again, and with both of you with a totally different perspective now. And York is saying, hey, I have my thing, and let's see what Jayne wants to do. And it's a very different approach as you come to this juncture again,
Yes.
as you spiral up.
Isn't that beautiful?
She has a
It's
less
gorgeous.
It is.
It is.
a much less meddlesome husband this time. So it's much more free space.
But it says, again, it just took a lot of work for, I think, both of us to get to a place where we trust ourselves and each other and the relationship and future and all of that to be able to trust.
Yeah. And what's kind of fun is, I correct me if I'm wrong, Jayne, is now that there's, I think, enough deep trust in our relationship and individual trust in ourselves and our life's missions and each other and our love and maturity to go with it, such that we could definitely pursue different things. What we're finding is, I think, that often what we want to do is something together, but it's from a much more mature, healthy, free will on everyone's part approach. And I have to get this pesky, day job off my back. But luckily we've been blessed financially and worked hard and saved hard. And if Jayne comes up with something that demands that I need to work with her full time, I can drop my day job and support what she wants to do. So that's kind of exciting. And so I am, quietly, curiously watching.
Well, the day job, it lets you be hanging out in a yoga studio in Costa Rica at the moment.
I know, poor him.
I won't shed too many tears for
I know,
you.
anytime he complains about it, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Well,
but to be fair, I've sat in this horrible weather all day working on UBU stuff today. So again, the dreams always have this illusion of dreaminess, but there is a grind that follows you where you go. And if the dreams don't have grind, sweat, and honestly, scare the crap out of you, literally, then they're too small.
Yeah,
Yes,
that actually,
yes.
Eric loves to say that. And we originally created a course and we called it Dreaming with Discipline, but we learned that everybody wanted to talk about dreaming and nobody wanted to talk about discipline. Those like little everyday steps and those, decisions that we make that aren't sexy, that really bring us to that place where we have growth and fulfillment, and we can look back and just say like, oh my gosh, look how far we have come. Can you believe that was just us? We never would have imagined who we are now.
For me, this is my main takeaway from our conversation, is that each of you in your own individual way came to a place where you said to yourself, I can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I can do anything. And the fact that you're at this new juncture, having sold the business and new possibilities are in front of you, and you can look back with all this credibility and all this confidence and say, whatever we pick, we know we can make it happen. And like you pointed out, York, you can't do everything, but whatever you do pick, you can do anything. So I just think for me, that's the most beautiful takeaway. And I really appreciate you guys jumping on with us tonight from the remote regions of Central America and, chatting with us about life's fun journeys. So thank you.
Yeah, it's great
You're
to
welcome.
be with you and see you.
Hey, thanks for joining us for that fun conversation with York and Jayne. We sure love them, and we sure love you. First of all, if you're having a good time listening to this, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, share this with somebody that you think would help. We'd love to get the word out and have more people part of this conversation about being parents of adult kids. And secondly, I'll say that if you think a mini retirement might be right for you, go to our website, theawesomefactory.nyc/strategy session. Check it out. We'd love to hop on a call with you real quick, 30, 40 minutes, and just explore what a mini retirement might look like for you and how you can pull it off. So check it out. Thanks again. See you next time.